Hello, beautiful stars of this constellation at Patreon. I'm so happy to be recording this for you for this solar eclipse in Aries, which is actually a hybrid eclipse because it's both total and annular, depending on, you know, the place in the world that you're seeing this from. And this specific eclipse, it's going to cast a shadow upon the Pacific and Australia, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, and Indonesia, and that side of the planet. So I don't know if there is anybody here in this patron community that is, or have been there before, or has like an intense connection to that place of the planet. But I'm really, really glad that I finally managed to sit down to do this for you, to ask for a reading for you, because I wanted to do so in the last full moon that happened in Libra. And many different things, my computer crashing, I just couldn't do it. I just didn't have the energy, and physically I didn't have the resources. So it was all kind of a little bit of a chaos. So I apologize for that, but I'm really, really happy that right now I'm standing here in front of the cards that came up for this eclipse for you guys. So I am really, really happy to say that there is a potent message here for this eclipse for you. And coming from, the cards that I have separated from the tarot cards, right? These are the tarot deck. This is the tarot deck, the tarot cards, and here, and okay, so first of all, anything else that I could say before I continue is I apologize in advance for any mistakes with my English and my language and my tongue. If it's just, rolling up and it doesn't want to speak properly. Tomorrow, Mercury goes retrograde in Taurus. And by the way, the card that is here at the bottom of the deck of this astrological oracle deck that is, being used here in this reading is Mercury. So it is wanting to highlight first and foremost the fact that tomorrow and for the next 3 weeks until the half of May, right? Mercury goes direct again in Taurus, in depending where you are, but between 14th or 15th of May. So yeah, for the next 3 weeks, we are going to have, miscommunications, or, the possibility of things not being well interpreted, or just, this mismatch between the things that you say and that you intend to be understood as, and then not having that understanding as you wished. So it's interesting that I was, going to present you my deck, the deck that I'm using, the astrological oracle deck, and before I even could start this introduction, the bottom of the deck here is already wanting to speak about this notion that if we are a lot more conscious and mindful about this Mercury retrograde, it's like things are not going to be that intense perhaps. And even though these miscommunications might happen because maybe they are inevitable, we're going to be able to deal with them in a lot more mature way. So now going to the message that I'm seeing here in the cards for you, in a few words, just to summarize what I'm seeing here, there is something that is pulling us down to earth, wanting to focus in where we are, but also to realize that the things that we have committed to, it's almost like they're helping us to anchor down to where we are and to honor our roots, to honor where we have chosen to be born, to the family that we chose to be born in, and it's like to bow in a sense to this gift that is to be alive here on earth right now. And it's like realizing that your unique individual perspective, it's like this notion of you as an individual is strengthening your own self. It's like it's because, okay, so let me start showing you the cards because it's going to be easier that way. We starting with Leo. And it's interesting because Leo talks about self, right? It's talking about the ego, and it is as much as, you know, this solar eclipse is happening in the last degree of Aries, and Aries being, you know, it's like this second lunation that we're having in Aries. So it's like a second chance that we're having to step into ourselves, into our own individuality, but not with the arrogant, imbalanced way of Leo, but rather this courage that comes from this alignment with the heart that propels Leo forward and instigates it, this energy to take this center stage of our lives. And it's interesting because Leo is, you know, opposite to Aquarius, which is the card that is actually ending here this reading. So it's like the polar opposite, and it's actually happening here in with two other cards that actually came together. So it's wanting to be this balance between one end of the spectrum and the other end of the spectrum. So the opposites are now facing each other, and they want to be harmonious, because what this Aquarius is talking about is reminding me of that as above so below law of the universe, in a sense, the law of correspondence, or you know what I mean, right? One of those hermetic teachings about as above so below. So it's like if you are in tune, if you are as centered in who you are, but not from a selfish point of view, but rather from a self, and it's not, it's interesting, I was going to say from a selfless, but it's not selfless and it's not selfish. It's almost like it's just the I am, right? It's like knowing who you are entirely, but integrating your own individuality with the sense of, you know, knowing that you are part of a bigger collective. Because if, you know, Leo talks about the individual, Aquarius is the energy in the zodiac that talks about the collective, the human collective. So it's like this is a lot more aligned and in the same frequency as above, so below, because more and more individuals like yourself are stepping into your own individuality, but not from the arrogant perspective or from that very imbalanced, low energy type of vibe. It's actually very centered and very coherent and very creative, right? Leo is very creative. So it's like the creative potential is here, and it is being ignited because it's being aligned in a sense with two energies, right? This line above is talking about, you know, this more subtle realm, and then this other line here is talking about this denser realm that we are inhabiting. So, you know, needing our physical body, but working with it creatively in order to align it or to harmoniously flow and create or co-create with the collective. And it's interesting because putting aside this arrogance or the selfishness or whatever it is that creates this imbalance in the Leo energy, it's actually going to help nourish and keep this fire alive. Because here, the next card that is Vesta, you know, this is an asteroid, a feminine asteroid that talks about this flame that keeps the house warm. It's like the center of a home. It's like the hearth, right? I hope I'm saying that word correctly, because yeah, I think that's the way that you say it. It's Hearth. I think that's the way to write it. But it's like it's the center, it's the center stage. So taking this center stage spot, your own spot, is going to keep that flame alive within yourself. But that needs to include you leaving aside, because the way that I'm seeing this symbol for Leo is like a tail. So it's like this tail, it's like put down your tail, and it's like, you know, like what is the name of that? You know, those animals that in order to intimidate others, they, you know, they flash their wings, or they open their chest, and it's like they it's like they become bigger, right? And it's like for some reason that was being shown here in this Leo card. So it's like putting that aside, putting down that arrogant stance. It's actually going to show you exactly where this ignition is starting, where this spark is, and where you need to go. You know, where is your spot, right? Where you need to take this center stage to nourish, to nurture your own creativity, your own strength, your own courage, your own flame. So, and it's beautiful because what I heard with this Vesta was actually a phrase in Portuguese because of the sound of this asteroid Vesta. I heard se veste do seu fogo. And that is, well, if I would translate that literally, would be like wear this fire. It's like wearing as in like a piece of clothing. So it's like put it on top of yourself, as if, you know, you were preparing to take center stage. And it's interesting because there are so many things talking about, like, you know, center stage, and like a stage, a proper stage, right? Life as it is, as a stage to, you know, whenever you show up for life, it's like you are taking center stage. And it's interesting because it's like wherever you are, wherever is this center, it's like if you come from a place of humbleness, a place of humility, a place of like true potentiality, true creation, true creativity, it's like you are going to always be feeding that fire, and that's always going to keep you warm. It's like you're always going to wear that piece of clothing that is very proper, that is very appropriate to keep you warm, right? So the next two cards are pointing to the eclipse itself, but there's more in this. So we have the moon and we have Saturn. And what this moon, first of all, was talking about was, you know, literally showing me this, like the visual of the moon eclipsing the sun, because it's almost like this part is the moon, and then this very tiny piece of moon, it's like it's actually the sun. So it's like the moon is covering the sun, which is what, you know, happened this night, right, at 1 well, here in my time, it's it happened at 1 a.m. But, you know, whenever this happened in your time zone, the sun being covered by the moon is talking about the unconscious, the subconscious, all of the emotional purge coming to the light. It's like it's going to ignite. That's the word that I was looking for. It's going to ignite this flame in you that is going, it's almost like this awakening process of things that have been, you know, mysterious, or that have been kept in the dark, or have been kept in your subconscious. Here Saturn is talking about something that is being pushed, but it's like something that has been taken, like perhaps a long time, because Saturn is Chronos, so it talks about time, and, you know, having to be patient with yourself. And here, the interesting thing is that you see here how the same shape is resembled here. So it's almost like here you have maybe you had to be very patient with yourself, maybe because you had to deal with this with, you know, like an inflated ego, or you were insecure about who you are, or even like your creative pursuits, in terms of, you know, needing external approval, external validation. Because, you know, when Leo lacks balance, when Leo is imbalanced, then it requires applause, it requires validation, so it can know its own true power. And I feel like that's what, you know, maybe has been like something that took a while, took a long time, so that you could tame this ego, and it's like dominate it in a way that creates order, because Saturn also brings order and structure. But it's like it's almost like, who is in charge here? Who is in charge? Because Saturn talks about hierarchical structures. So it's almost like maybe you didn't know that you, in order to free yourself, because also, you know, this opposition talks about, you know, freedom, but also like, how do you free yourself from yourself? It's a very tricky question, right? So maybe this has been, you know, like in the back of your mind, in your subconscious, right? In this very emotional, mysterious, maybe unaccessible territory, that now with the eclipse, it's almost like with this burst of ignition, this fire in you that shows you where is your place, where you find this nourishment. It's like it's almost like the reward for everything that took so long for you to finally find this maturity, right? This also talks about finding maturity and being responsible for who you are and who you are becoming, or who you have become, because of everything that you had to realize about your own self, about your own ego. So, but which is not a bad thing, right? The ego is a necessary thing actually to walk this earth, walk this denser realm. But this was talking about the eclipse itself, and, you know, possible restrictions that have been experienced before, and that now are coming through as, okay, so now I understand the order in which, you know, things happen in my life, and the structure that now I feel in myself, like this maturity of who you have become, because you have endured, because you have allowed your emotions, you know, despite not knowing what they were doing, what they were wanting to tell you, or the meaning behind them. It's like now it becomes a lot more clear who you are and who you are becoming, because of the restrictions, because of the time that it took. And also the other thing that I want to highlight, because it ties in with the rest of the reading, is the fact that here the moon is the ruler of Cancer and Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn. So again, you know, opposite signs, because Cancer and Capricorn are these two polar opposites, as much as Leo and Aquarius. And we are talking about, you know, sun and moon, highlighting the fact that, you know, the next 2.5 years, the series of eclipses that we're going to have is going to be, you know, it's going to activate Aries and Libra, also two opposites, two sides of the zodiac that are being illuminated and transformed and challenged, perhaps, right? It's like the self is being challenged, but in order to highlight this, maybe this community perspective, or this collective point of view. And so what this is talking about, the connection between these two opposites, the Cancer sign, which is ruled by the moon, and the Capricorn sign, which is ruled by Saturn, is the fact that in a birth chart, the moon, Cancer, rules the bottom of the chart, which is actually the very next card that is here, which is this IC. So here it's like this lowest point. And I feel like emotionally, perhaps you have had a lot of restrictions because of where you were born, because of the family, because the IC rules the fourth house, which which is the family, the roots, your ancestry, where you come from. And it's like now that the restrictions are finally making their way to be released, in a sense, it's almost like perhaps this eclipse could be, it's like this final push, this final release. But also it's interesting because hearth, home, the center of your home, it's like you being the center of your home, but also being who you are. And it's like nourishing your own self, your own creative nature. It's like it's going to allow you to be a lot more responsible for who you are, but also in regards to who you came from, right? It's like honoring those who, in a sense, allowed you to be here. It's like honoring your roots, honoring this lowest part of your chart is going to allow you to grow, to become, this very strong. Remember, the strength and courage coming from Leo, but the type of strength that comes from Saturn is a lot more structured. Is based in it's like lessons, right? Saturn also talks about karma, so it can bring also all of the lessons that came through your own family, your own childhood, your own adulthood. Perhaps it's like becoming mature thanks to the things that you have experienced from the place that you were born, but then realizing that that lowest point in your chart actually is very deeply connected to the opposite side of the chart, which is the top, right? It's like the highest point, which is the midheaven that is ruled by Saturn, that is, the ruler of Capricorn. So this axis of Cancer and Capricorn, the moon and Saturn, are touching the lowest point and then the highest point. So what is the legacy that you can leave to the planet? Oh my God. Because the next card is the Earth, symbolizes the planet Earth. It's like, what is the legacy that you can leave? What is your contribution to the planet, to the world, to where you are? It could be even like just who you are and who you are in connection to, right? It's like those people that are closest to you. It's like, what is the lesson that you have been taught by the things that you have experienced in your family, perhaps, or in your childhood? Because this fourth house, the IC, also talks about those very early years in your life here. So honoring that is like revealing a lot of things that have been kept in the back burner of your mind, right? Because the moon also talks about memories. So memories coming back, but in a much more mature way, it's like you have grown so much that it's like you can look back to the things that maybe you didn't know why they were occurring. And maybe, yes, they were very restrictive. There were a lot of challenges, but somehow now there comes this reward, because it's like maybe you had to learn to be a lot more creative, a lot more resourceful, perhaps, but learning to remove all of the arrogance, right? All of that, the false security that you put up this mask saying that you were this or that, but inside you were very insecure. Inside your flame was not lit at all. It's almost like in order to keep this flame alive, maybe for a while you needed input from others, but now you know how to self-nourish, so you know how to keep that alive, right? And it's like the reward, because in a sense is like you helping yourself, you overcoming the challenges yourself. It's like you are helping the planet, right? It's like honoring where you chose to be born, the family that you chose. It's even though you might not remember, even though these mysteries of other lives, or pre-birth memories, they might not be as clear as they, but you know, it's almost like allow this the effect of this eclipse that lasts for 6 months to reveal all of these mysteries to you, because there is an incredible contribution to the earth. And I feel like that is very, very fortunate, not only for you, but for humanity as a whole, because as I said, we're ending here with Aquarius, but before Aquarius, we have this Pars fortune. It's like this fortune's part. So it's also called the Arabian part. It's not something very common in astrology anymore, although some astrologers really, really study this, because it also talks about opportunity and, you know, a place in your chart where you find this, it's almost like this, it's like a quest for something that is so special and so divine and so lucky, but you didn't even know that it was right, you know, under your nose or under your feet. So it's like, it's because what this is talking about, you see here how we have like these four quadrants, right? It's like a compass. This shape of this fortune's part also reminds this the Wheel of Fortune in the tarot, but it's different because if you've seen my deck, my tarot deck, and I'm not going to find right now the Wheel of Fortune. I should have done that before, but anyways, so if you remember the image of the Wheel of Fortune, it is the same thing as this, but it's like this, right? It's like this, it's tilted to the side. So it's more like an X instead of an actual compass. So what this is talking about is that the legacy that you're now going to leave for the planet, the contribution that now you can leave for the planet as a whole, is talking about starting with you honoring where you came from, you know, your roots, your parents, your grandparents, your family, your history, your past, but doing so not from a fearful stance, but rather from a very responsible and mature way, dealing with your own issues, dealing with your own maybe family related troubles or traumas or whatever, in a way that you know that this is going to be beneficial, because it's like it's going to enrich not only yourself but everyone else around you, right? It's like it's aligning yourself to a very higher it's a very high frequency. It's like a higher dimensional state of feeling you as this individual, present and alive, breathing, healthy, creative, very potent here on earth, knowing that you are affecting, in a sense, this collective around you, maybe very directly, maybe very indirectly, but in a way that is like it's giving you direction, and it's like a clear direction because it's very fortunate. It's like things that are very fortunate are now going to show you the way. It's not anymore about restriction or imposition or challenges or you having to deal with your own ego that was, you know, making the bumps on the road a lot more challenging. You see what I mean? So it was like, it's all of this realization that you were maybe, you know, stepping in front of yourself and being your own challenge. But now that you know who you are in truth, like Paul Selig says, it's like you're going to find this lost compass, in a sense, and that is going to align you, you know, as above, so below. So it's like this very high frequency that now you are aligned to, right? It's like it's going to shift your perception of self in the collective, and, you know, the power of the collective in, you know, how it affects you. So I hope this was helpful and insightful in any way. May you have a wonderful, wonderful solar eclipse in Aries. And thank you so, so much again for being here with me. Okay, bye.